Welcome back, everybody, to the Deadlock Fight Night, the NA edition. This is our second run of this tournament, and this week we run a challenge game and a best of one for the right to take on the current king of the hill. In North America, that king is Hydra Nation, with a dominant 2-0 win last week to cement their spot at the top of NA. It's the pesky bottom barrel that have stepped up to challenge them, getting the Bebop Dynamo lane and snowballing it out of control. I'm here with ZP, I'm here with DDK. ZP, let's be real. Are we just going to ban Bebop at this point? Is that the play?
Yeah. If I'm Hydra Nation, I absolutely do that. I think Hydra Nation, they're a team that prides himself as being a little bit ahead of where all the other teams are in NA. And if you feel like you are that good, you can sacrifice a little bit of meta power in the draft to get rid of a super big comfort pick. Because I think if you're evaluating Wallix as a player, it was a pretty darn good player, by the way. But their power level with Bebop, 11 out of 10. Power level with any other character, probably more a 7 out of 10, 8 out of 10. I think you just ban Bebop, you don't even deal with that, and you suffer a slightly less optimal draft. That's what I would do.
Okay.
Or they think they have a good answer for it, and they're like, we can get more power out of the draft by not using it. Obviously, that is a world, but I think you're totally right, ZP. I think that what they should do is just ban people. I think that's kind of obvious, because also the entire team like revolved around that play of the Bebop. So be curious to see what it looks like without that, because let's hope that the sensible thing happens.
Can you just cube a teammate that gets caught in a Bebop hook? Is that enough to stop them? Do you like play a viscous lane into that and try and sort of protect the ally that gets hooked in?
You know, sometimes it is, but also depending on positioning, you can also just get knocked even further back while in cube. It's not a fix all because of how people can interact with the cube.
Sure.
So it can be a little bit tough at times, but there are some characters you can play that, you know, give Bebop a little bit more trouble, or, you know, just honestly play a lane that's more aggro, like you run something like a pocket, you take it away from Alju at the same time, and also have a character that isn't as free for Bebop, right?
Yeah. They opened with a pocket shiv out of that draft. That was pretty impressive, and they really showed a dominance. We definitely thought that TF2 Boomers had a better comp. It just looks better. It's crazy how much the early game can, you know, completely flip our expectations on its head. Let's talk rosters here, folks. Let's get acquainted with two teams fighting for $1,000 put up by Alpha Zero GG. Excuse me. We got Hydra Nation, which is Hydration, Lefa, Rocker, Flick, DMB, and Quig, and bottom barrel, as we just saw. It's Geo, Fishcake, JC Stowney, Alju, Young Calg, and Walex. Now, we saw Hydra Nation last week, DDK. The games were short. They were not close. This team distinguished themselves, I think, is head and shoulders above the rest.
Yeah, they have obviously very high skill amongst all of the players. They kind of absorbed the other like really good NA team to make the super team, and so if it truly is a super team, you would expect that it should have a noticeable edge in all of the matches. That's kind of like how those early kind of game super teams tend to work. So, but you know, we'll have to see, because obviously one would hope that if they understand that if Bebop is banned, that they have to have another plan. You know, I'm hoping that's the world that we live in here with bottom barrel. So we'll see if there is another approach that they can pull off that is still strong strategically.
Yeah, just like ZP said, he feels like there might be an 11 out of 10 with Bebop, but maybe a 7 or 8 without. And I think you have to be a pretty solid 10 to really put a team like Hydra Nation under some degree of pressure right now. Turns out, I mean, Lef has got a bunch of time in his hands right now, so he's free to jump in to play some of these customs instead. And we are going to see a McGuinness banned here by bottom barrel. They don't want to deal with that, which is pretty fascinating, really. We don't often see a targeted ban like this, and get that Bebop. Get him out of here. Get him out.
Yeah, I mean, look, this is all the setup, right? And you've seen this so many times in games with drafts and everything else, especially if one team is coming in with a higher power level than another. Clearly, I think Hydra Nation was watching the last game and just said, no, we're not going to deal with it. However, I do think what Bomb Barrel is going to do in turn, I think they probably first pick the pocket here for Alju. That's where I think they're going to go.
Yeah, very, very reasonable pick that would be. We've seen Hydra Nation, I think last week, prioritize, you know, some more of those support-based heroes. It's actually going to be a Paradox instead picked up. So that's one that Hydra Nation don't have access to. Maybe we're leaving the pockets and shivs of the world for a little bit later, but that's definitely a pick you could see go over to Hydra Nation. They'll be happy to get themselves a pocket here if they can.
It's interesting to see the psychology in drafts where you sort of expect that your opponents might want to pick certain things, and I wonder if that was the case in the previous game where they kind of wanted their opponents to like pick into like a paradox and a lash and so on, and they, because they had a plan that was going to be good against that, and if their opponents are seeing two like super strong initiators on the table, they're probably going to pick them up. So there are certainly some assumptions that you can make if you understand what your strategy is or good strategies are for you versus the current meta. But we get the Kelvin pick straight away, and I know we were talking about how we rate Kelvin really highly in North America, but Europe is not as high on Kelvin. So there it is, first pick for Hydra Nation.
Yeah, I mean, leaving the draft open a little bit. Hydra Nation also might want to put themselves in positions to counterpick with some of the more impactful choices, but there's a lot of there's a lot of strength on the board. Wraith is still available to be picked. Pocket obviously still up. Shiv getting taken away here for Hydra Nation. So you do have basically all of like your big carries that are still available here. Viscous also been prioritized in this NA region as well. We saw JC Stani on that pick earlier on, and that was pretty successful, I'd like to say. Obviously he was carrying a lot of the utility for the team and the curse as well, but hey, that's sometimes what you have to do in that support role. So yeah, a ton of really powerful stuff available. Mirage we haven't really seen contested in the previous draft here. Lash though, probably no shock to see that make its way in.
No, not a shock at all. I think the interesting thing is that the McGinnis ban, in terms of the hero pool that Hydra Nation has, I think they wanted to pick up a good hero for Quig, and that's why they went with the Kelvin, perhaps a little bit earlier than you'd expect even for NA. I think the early Kelvin pick is a direct response to the McGinnis ban, but the upside here for Bottom Barrel is that while it is going to make their more support situation a little bit more in contest, they do get the Lash in return, where I think normally getting Lash Paradox is a little bit difficult. And as you were mentioning, Mitch, they can pick up the Viscous for JC Stani, where Viscous is still very, very good, especially if you have a world where McGinnis and Kelvin are off the table. So I think draft-wise, I like where Bottom Barrel has brought this year thus far, especially because, of course, Bebop's off the table this time.
So Lash Paradox, Viscous locked in here for Bottom Barrel, definitely making sure they've got good utility, good initiation. They've got Lash and Paradox both picked up. So we've seen those two taken in positions 1 and 2 by a few teams in the past, and it definitely means that if they're in a position of strength, they can fight pretty well. Abrams now is a little bit off the wall here, but we do know how Hydra Nation like to go for a pick like this. His shoulder charge has been changed though, to the degree that you don't sort of suck people in to the charge. Like it's a little bit harder to hit the shoulder charge, but we feel like it's still a little bit questionable in how it works, CP.
Well, yeah, I mean, my issue with shoulder charge right now is that it just straight up a little bit buggy. They made a change to shoulder charge where it basically fixed an exploit where you could jack up your sensitivity and just have like full precision control the charge. But now you get some weird interactions at the moment where you play Abrams and you try and charge someone up a ramp and you will randomly just bounce off at a 90-degree angle. Abrams on a base level is still a very good character, but you've now opened yourself up to be at the will of the game in terms of some odd bugs. So the consistency might be a problem.
Yeah, and it's good that we finally get to see an Abrams, by the way, because I'm a big fan of Abrams, obviously with the regen ability and just like being able to take less damage with that as well. It's a great hero enforcing action, especially when you're trying to take some of these early objectives. And also, obviously, the ult is great initiation. And given that Lash and Paradox is on the other team, you are looking to have some initiation. Obviously, Bebop is gone. Not that I'm sure that they would have picked it up anyway. So that's definitely a question for me. I feel like the Infernus Viscous is a really nice follow-up from Lash and Paradox. So like right now, I'm like really enjoying what Bottom Barrel has, especially seeing how good JC Stani actually was on Viscous, because he was landing some really, really sick puddle punches and looked extremely comfortable in setting up fights off of those abilities. So good Viscous is very, very good to have. And again, with the Infernus as well, I feel like they're feeling pretty comfortable. And the Warden comes out ZP special.
Yeah, I mean, look, I'll never hate on Warden, but I do like the setup here. And also, this is as much of it's a good pick for them because Wallux usually plays the Warden when not on Bebop. That is a Wallux pick, generally speaking. But also Hydration, both in scrims and in recent higher end play, has shown incentive to go Warden himself. It's been one of Hydration's more picked heroes in recent times. So it's both good. Yeah, it's good for Wallux, bad for Hydration. Solid pick for Bottom Barrel there. I really like getting the Warden where they got it.
Now, of course, some heroes that are still available. Geist is still available. Wraith is still available here as well. That's not something that's been looked at. Yamato still up. So quite a
And
few.
no Wraith. Good
Yeah,
point.
exactly. Yet, I mean, it's just not really been looked at there. So there's the Wraith now locked in. So Hydra Nation do, of course, have pretty decent pick and chase potential, of course, being able to pick that Wraith up. When Wraith gets ahead, it's pretty devastating. Might be like one of the, like, again, get it on a carry player in this team and try and really get rolling. I'm curious to see, like, like who Wraith is laning with. If it ends up being a solo, because we have Shiv and Pocket, of course, that can, bounce around a little bit more. It might be, your solo laners. So maybe you mix that in with like an Abrams here. You have like pretty good fight potential early. Yamato here getting locked in for bottom barrel. So there's a pretty robust looking composition here. But again, our intuition about good drafting tends to fall apart once we start to see the first few minutes of the game play out.
Yeah, I mean, the thing about the draft is that there's all the plans and all the ways that things should work together, but there's enough variation in Deadlock between how you can build in items and just simply how the game goes that all your laid plans can be completely in tatters by about minute 12, right? The player's skill and how the players play really plays a key role.
So Wraith and Lady Geist to round out this team for Hydra Nation. Pretty balanced. Obviously a good mix of strong laners, chase potential, some all-in team fight as well with Abrams, as he can really start those fights off and give a staging ground for the rest of his team to go in. And again, we love the sort of the raw mobility of this bottom barrel composition. It's pretty wild, honestly. You're going to have, of course, Majestic Leap on that Warden. He's going to be getting around in Furnace with the Flame Dash. Viscous, of course, we know moves around the map pretty well, especially with Goo Ball. And Lash is, barely has to touch the ground here. So two good comps, rather. We've got a good mix of them. And this is, what bottom barrel are here to show us that they have what it takes without, leaning on something like the Bebop. Wilex can take the Warden in, still has, real carry potential if you can get started early in the game. Kind of hard to feel. I really don't know which comp I prefer, honestly. Probably bottom barrels even still.
What I think is interesting is that the squishiness in comparison of bottom barrels to Hydra Nation is interesting because, you've got Kelvin, Shiv, Abrams, you've got a lot of tanky, like potential good, like frontline heroes to kind of force objectives and push through disadvantageous ground. As we move into this game between Hydra Nation and bottom barrel, I don't know. I'm kind of with you on that, Mitch. I think just like ZP said, we're going to really have to see how well these early lane dynamics work out. And as we get into the mid game, who's pulling ahead and why?
All right, well, we're going to catch up with ZP on the other side of this now and jump into the match. It's bottom barrel on the Sapphire side. Hydra Nation are the Amber, and they are your defending champions, the Kings of the Hill here at the Deadlock Fight Night, once again competing for $1,000 for their roster. Look at the lane assignments here with the Abrams solo against the Yamato. On the right side of the map, it will be Infernus going up against the Wraith.
Yeah, so pretty even solo lanes, I feel like. Not like a massive disparity in power. These mid lanes obviously super key though, because these mid lanes are it's easiest access to roaming off of your mid lane. So if you're winning your mid lanes, that's why it can translate into a bigger lead elsewhere around the map.
See, it's actually the it's this lane that was getting a little bit busy. The one featuring Warden. So the right side mid lane, yeah, which the young Calc actually get kind of dove on briefly. Hydra Nation definitely were looking to go aggressive. Hydration though himself quite slow, as is DMB. We have the Warden Lash set up here in this particular lane.
And I got to say the kinetic charge from Paradox plus the Puddle Punch could be kind of a scary combo, because you also get the coordinates on that pretty quickly. But Binding Word, looks like we're able to dash out of that one. Plays pretty low here in this lane.
Yeah, a little bit of healing though over for young Calc, who wants to try and throw that alchemical flask towards the area behind the Guardian. More pressure on that Lady Geist is what bottom barrel are looking for. This lane has looked pretty strong for them so far. Getting some free Guardian damage now as well. And of course, this is Wilex, who's actually on the Infernus rather, not young Calc, as we sort of maybe expected that will be switched up. Hydra Nation side, of course, Lefa, someone who's going to do pretty well in a solo lane. And Flick's going to be able to win out. There's that first blood here. This time's going to the Abrams.
There's definitely a lot of important work that has to be done for both of the solo lanes, because you need to make sure that you don't get too far behind if you're on a slightly losing lane. And for the Infernus, I'm thinking like you're getting that Spirit Strike pretty early. You need to get that the Spirit Shield up, because the cards flying in from Wraith will give Wraith an edge in that fight. Going back into this mid lane though, you can see actually, well, the Pocket Kelvin combo looking pretty good here.
Yeah, and it's going to be a 1-for-1 trade. Rocket was very, very low, and there's always JC starting hovering around, ready to go at least 1-for-1 here. Even still, though, plenty of action. Of course, we saw Flick get that kill on Alju earlier, the Yamato diving extremely deep to try and take down that Abrams, which is always a risky prospect. And then we see Fishcake continuing to pressure now, making a half hydration to get up and get that free farm. He's actually taking the extra regen in lane, so hydration really serious about being able to hang around despite that constant harassment.
Looks like left his solo lane for the time being as well, so that's going to give some extra farm to Willexo, who was previously on that bebop that was so instrumental.
Yeah, Leffa will get back before the wave crashes into his Guardian, so it was just I think just a poke down. I mean, you've got to respect and furnish. You just can't linger at low health, and I don't know if you want to spend on like an extra regen to try and deal with that. It's got a persistent tick damage, so Leffa back in the lane, you'll notice that, yeah, it bounces off the Wraith, and they're going to be able to, you know, not lose any farm whatsoever. I mean, this is a rough lane for Hydra Nation. Extra regions for everybody, apparently, is that Warden Lash combo is really giving them issues.
Yeah, and it's very sketchy. You just have to you have to just make sure you don't give up any like easy kills. You have to obviously have enough sustain that you can keep yourself in the CS battle, so you're not getting pressured so heavily that you're also getting kept off of good line of sight for creeps. Oh, a nice fake punch there to like force out the parry, and in comes the seismic slam to finish it off on the Yamato. Oh, beautiful stuff there, Mitch, to open things up. And we're talking about winning these extremity lanes, and that's a great start for your Abrams.
I mean, Alju is struggling in that matchup. As soon as Flick gets to 3k souls and has that seismic slam available, it's on. 1.5k souls for the Yamato, getting completely brutalized in that lane, and that's tough. You want a Yamato to be able to have some impact for the early lane, get those earlier T3s. Here's the telekinesis though, and yep, the full auto means that Leffa can mow Wallach down.
It's a slight edge here, it seems, for Hydra Nation on the overall souls, but obviously what's important is where they're going and where they're not. But so far looks, you know, pretty good across the board. Obviously, you know, Leffa's doing a pretty good job on his
dominating in that lane.
And we got the Warden swapped out there, actually. Infernus switching the lane off of being up against the Wraith. And we've got, again, a bit of trouble here for Paradox, the JC Stani.
Falls up there. I think Alju just randomly died as they tried to gank there. I think that's what happened. Not really sure. Leffa here is going to be a real problem. They're already starting to get out of hand here. Obviously, that telekinesis is now available to them. 4.1 to 3.1 is their lane matchup here. That's maybe a little bit more than Quick expected to get for their trouble there. Alju able to get that kill.
Yeah, they were both so low. It looked like that should have been potentially 2 kills for Kelvin, but not working out that way. And more problems here for Willexo. Having initially fallen off of this lane a little bit because farm was so difficult to come by. And was smacked straight in the face. Willexo will get taken out, and Hydra Nation definitely doing well with this pressure, but you got to get out too.
If things go bad,
Can they get out?
It's a little dicey. If there's a life siphon up here for the Geist, that's obviously some important sustain. And there's rotations coming in. Okay, so good response there from Hydration. He gets to the lane. And yeah, I'm pretty sure Fishcake realizes there's no opportunity. The big strength for bottom barrel is that right side mid lane where, you know, Fishcake and Young Calc are really abusing that DMB Hydration duel, or at least they were. That's the strongest part of bottom barrel's composition. But Hydration DMB been getting around the map a little bit more. Just the farming ability, right, for Leffa and Flick, leaving their like lane opponents utterly in their dust is a big driver of momentum for Hydra Nation here.
And with that said, you know, we're starting to get closer to that 10-minute mark now, and obviously everybody's got their ults online. And Infernus will actually rejoining that 4th lane.
Telekinesis is up. Yep, there it is, straight away. Going Hex going to be used there on the Warden card, and thank you for coming. Easy pick off there on the Warden. And of course, Leffa can just TP straight out, so there's no threat of reprisal.
Yeah, good work there, for sure. And, you know, keeping check on these extremity lanes is really, really important. It feels like Algae on the Yamatos is catching up a little bit. Obviously, Abrams doing quite well and starting to roam as well in that 2 lane right now, pursuing both JC Stani and Geo on the Viscous and the Paradox. So far everything is like super contested, Mitch. It feels like, you know, when we see that first earn, we might, you know, that's when we might see one team be in a position where they would think to force a team fight and where we could get a big value swing. But we'll have to see. There's still you know, a couple minutes until that point.
Yeah, and like despite all these kills that Hydra Nation have been taking around the map, like Left is at 3, Flick's taken 2 kills here. They've not really manifested that into these Guardian advantages. Just 1 Guardian down so far. And for the most part, Hydra Nation seem pretty content farming. Just trying to get towards some of those power spikes, but here we're definitely about to get some action. In comes Flick, shoulder charge in, paradoxical swap. Oh my goodness, 2-for-1 special. Thank you very much. Into the seismic slam, and there's no coming back from that one. Beautifully done by Flick, and a setup was stunning. I think one of the players got swapped behind a teammate, causing them both to get charged.
Yeah, that was massive. That was a sick opening, and that's the initiation we're talking about, that you want to see from your initiators in this mid round, setting up the fight, and that's going to convert into those extra Guardians. We're going to get definitely a bit of a value swing, and going into the first earn, it feels like Hydra Nation should be favorites for that one. Now moving the push towards what could be the pickup spot as they pressure Willexo on the Infernus, just trying to farm. And Willexo, we can see, is behind on farm on the Infernus. So that is good work from Hydra Nation to deny one of the key carries, that early farm.
Wait a minute. Bottom Barrel just committed 3 players to the far left side lane. They might be at risk of losing objectives elsewhere as a result of this, because Leffa gets out and now the reinforcements are on the way. If this goes wrong for Bottom Barrel, they've committed so many resources to this part of the map and have come up with nothing. Slowing Head connects. Full auto getting fired off here. No time to set up a last stand for Young Calc. He's on the back foot the whole time. JC starting a Young Calc go down there. That's disastrous.
Oh dear. And everything's coming up now in 30 seconds. So we'll have to see if Bottom Barrel can really do anything to contest the bridge buff, contest the urn that's coming up. Farming here for Shiv for hydration. So the fact that, you know, both Shiv and in hydration and Rocker on the pocket are having like a pretty good time of it so far is definitely potentially a problem. Obviously not too far ahead just yet, but in comes the urn that's going to be spawning and dropping down now. And so will we get a gradual movement towards that pickup, or would it be more about denying the depositing?
I mean, you have to feel like Hydra Nation wants to take a fight here. Affliction's up, Telekinesis is about to be up again. Flick obviously can have an engage that he's looking for. You might even just see a fight, Dan, sort of precipitate around this last Guardian. Not that Hydra Nation need it for the flex slot, but it's just a place that Bottom Barrel are looking to try and contest here. Yeah, look at this grouping. We might see just that happen here. Bottom Barrel very wary of it.
Yeah, what's interesting from Bottom Barrel is they're not committing to the end, but they could pick up players rotating to it and isolate them. They didn't catch anyone, so now they're in a scenario where they have to presumably try to defend against the deposit. So we'll see if they can do that, because they're going to isolate the Wraith, but Leffa might just be able to escape here. Using the TP, is that going to be enough?
It's so busted.
Yeah, that's so great for you.
Unreal, man. That is
Clip off to
crazy.
Pick up.
Yep. Yeah, they went 3v1 to try and chase Leffa down. He was already out of there. No one's here for the urn. So it's just a free take.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Bottom Barrel getting absolutely ranched on the macro side of things here, Dan.
Indeed. Wraith being a big bait. That's definitely like quite a valuable TP when you think about the impact there of baiting them in. And now like trying to convert into more pressure around the map here.
4K Soul TP. There's the transformation. Alju realizing they're a little bit outmatched in terms of numbers at the very least here. Grouping back up with the Paradox. The fish cake drops down. I mean, I said Telekinesis was up. They weren't listening. This might be a walker here for Hydra Nation.
Yeah, the farm differential is starting to get a little bit worrying. 14k isn't much when you're like 20 minutes in, but we're only 12 minutes in, so this is almost 20k difference, which is sizable because of these objectives. There's a quick swap coming through. Quig goes down at the very least if the Bottom Barrel are able to get some defensive work done here.
Dangerous for JC Stani. Able to play up behind this wall here. Veil obscuring a large number of Hydra Nation's players. There was a seismic slam coming in here, but off to the side was JC Stani getting into the fight. It looks like Hydra Nation opting out of it after losing to Kelvin. There's nothing really for them to fight for here, outside of more walkers elsewhere. So again, bottom barrel get baited into a hard engage in that right side mid lane elsewhere. The second walker take.
Yeah, that's crazy. A really nice edge right now for Hydra Nation. What I'm curious about is how they might decide to like try to leverage this edge. Obviously, mid boss is up at the moment. They haven't found a good opportunity to go and take that. That would be, you know, the best case scenario is finding a moment to go and take that. Obviously, there's a lot of farm on the map, and if you have a lot of map control and you've got the other team sort of rooted because of winning some engagements, you can obviously eat up some of their farm and just try to like expand your lead a little bit before then coming together for the urn. The urn is like a soft objective in a sense that it's not as risky to go for it as a mid boss. It's not as terrible if you give it up like the mid boss. So that's typically in those 5-minute increments is going to be where we see the next setup for a team fight.
Oh, DMB. Okay, looks like Rescue Beam was able to get DMB out of the swap there. Bottom barrel looking for a fire, but Hydra Nation had the answers. So no mid boss opportunity here from bottom barrel. Here comes some of those items again. Warpstone here for JC Stani. Really wants to make sure they can TP into range to make that happen. We'll see here DMB with some of that sort of defensive utility. Rocker, of course, Majestic lead. Quig with that rescue beam that we just saw used.
And obviously the worst thing that could happen for Hydra Nation is if they give up a pick or two whilst they're sort of like trying to capitalize on the farm before the next bigger objectives come up. And we're going to get Kelvin here, obviously with the Ice Path, able to do a lot with this. Ice Beam comes out as well. Very scary, both the mobility and sort of how well you can chase and set up these ganks off of Kelvin.
You notice there, Hunter's Aura now up for the Abrams. They're going to make use of it here. What a stun. Beautifully done. Going to trade a couple punches here now. Okay. Mobilizing were going to be attempted to be used, but Quig is there. And Flick just picks himself up and gets back to business.
So many parries. Does not matter though. And we are at a 24k difference. So extending, Hydra Nation have extended the lead slightly. And it doesn't, we need to find, bottom barrel need to find a way to obviously turn this around because they're just slowly getting further and further behind at the moment. And so, you know, what are the options that they have? You know, right now there's no map control. And again, this is like a problem because all your jungle farm can get eaten up and you can get ganked very easily. And you have no information on where your opponents are. They could be anywhere when you lose this much control. And look at how easy it is to run an urn behind everything too. I don't know if this can even be contested.
I mean, there's just no reason. Yeah, Young Kalk's going to be warded off. He was the closest player that could have intervened here. So the Kelvin can cover a lot of ground here. That's like a 5k plus earn being picked up essentially for free. It's bottom barrel who are clinging to their last two walkers here. So they're more invested in defending the right side of the map. So this earn spawn location doesn't help them. Like, bottom barrel don't have a good reason to be on this other side. Okay, that was quite the paradoxical swap attempt there. JC Stani bogged down a little bit, but looking to try and pressure Rocker, who is very much out on their own, but there's going to be more of a fight to be had here. In comes Flick, looking to try and run down the Paradox, but the wall in the way might be a bit of a problem. Still a second for Flick in the fight. Overrunning bottom barrel. Frozen Shelter used there. Yeah, the Abrams would love to get involved. Shadow Transformation won't prolong Aldry's life for very long, and Wilex is elsewhere, and he's probably very glad for that.
Yeah, and there it is, mid-boss off of that fight. And it made sense to try to go for that fight, I think, because, again, as EP's been saying, it's the battle of imperfect information. If you feel like you can't directly contest the urn, it's partially because your assumption is that they're going to have all of their team there. So if you're trying to push this second lane instead as a group, you might be able to get maybe a 6v5 or a 6v4 because maybe two of the enemies are already on the urn spot trying to secure it. So trying to take a fight there, I think, was a great idea, but it's just, I think the case, it seems that Hydra Nation were already too far ahead, and they were quite well prepared for that as well. So, good idea, but sadly did not work out for bottom barrel.
Coming back for this one is going to be tough. It definitely blows out the soul lead pretty significantly. Also, bottom barrel are grouped up on the side of the map. That makes it very hard for them to protect their remaining walkers, just as Gio is probably about to discover. Yep, here they come. Hydra Nation have no reason not to group up to sort of fight for these objectives, but they still respect the fact that it's a short rotation across to this mid-right side walker for bottom barrel. They are going to want to fight for it, though. There's not much else on the map to fight for, and you've got Rejuve.
yeah, they're gonna want to just like it basically is like a checklist of stuff. Like, okay, let's make sure the lanes are pushed. Let's make sure the urn is taken down. Let's like clear out the jungles. Like, all right, now it's time to go and use the rest of the rejuve to just like force some fights. Because the opponents are going to have to tuttle against it, typically speaking, because they need to make sure that they don't get wiped by it, because you just respawn more quickly with the rejuve, obviously. So you need to actually really win or deflect the fight, or delay it until the buff runs out. Those are your options.
Yeah, and I don't really think anything is looking pretty for bottom barrel here. There's that Walker take now. Bottom barrel, of course, without young Calc, who's really struggled, I guess, to have much of an impact in this game. Slow start in lane. Even though, well, actually, frankly, no, he and Fishcake had a good start, excuse me, but they really fell behind quite quickly once we started to see other involvement. It should be Walker at number 4 here. And then Hydra Nation will still want to push on and fight here. All those big ultimates are still available. And they're picking off bottom barrel players without having to use any of those. That is devastating now. Bottom barrel don't have many options. Try and fight this. Well, there's telekinesis on the line. Affliction already got used there, but Flick can start the fight when and how he chooses. And this is how he chooses, apparently. JC Starling throws up a wall there, and you'll see that the immobility will be dodged by Flick. Get slam for Fishcake. It's very low. Will just die out in mid-air. And those base guardians are starting to fall. No one can stand up against this Abrams as things stand here. Well, I said to run inside Spore unless the second melee end his life.
Oh no. Getting in the base of the pocket. Yeah, it's all gone wrong. It's just, I think we talked about how good on the macro Hydra Nation are, and I just love the decision making from them when they get ahead, because it's always a sign of a team that's has the fundamentals dialed in, that when you're ahead, you don't do stupid things to harm your lead. You actually do things to leverage your lead to get you more ahead. So then you're even better set up for the following engagements where the other team's like, oh, we have to do something. We can't just keep letting you guys get free value. And then by that time, you've given them nothing. So you're just in a situation where you've made life easier for yourself. And Hydra Nation are excellent at that.
Yeah, they have, honestly. And this is the problem against this team. You make one small mistake and they will exacerbate that error. They'll punish you for it, and then they'll keep doing it for the rest of the game. We talked so much about conversation in Deadlock about how do you come back from being behind? How do you sort of, get out of this sort of compromising position when you're sort of getting wrapped up and the enemy team are just sort of running circles around you. And unfortunately, a lot of it comes down to, can you force a mistake? Do you wait for an error on your opponent's side? Or, can you make some sort of play that will allow you at least to get a foothold and bring the game back? But those options, frankly, are pretty limited. Also, like the way Deadlock is right now is that the game, they look to have a winner after like a pretty short time, like a half-hour game is like the max they're looking for you. So you tend to see it get out of hand pretty quickly, and there to be a bit of a snowball effect, like this 60,000 soul lead that Hydra Nation had.
Yeah, and it's worth mentioning DMB and Rocker have picked up soul rebirths, so you get a respawn after you die, which is like one of the highest value items to have in the late game, because the one way that you can lose is if your team gets wiped and you have like 60-second respawns. And at that point, it doesn't matter how many souls you are ahead, because you're not going to be alive to do anything. So the soul rebirth is just another way to mitigate one of the worst possible outcomes should it happen, as unlikely as it may be.
Yeah. It also does mean, though, if you do die that second time, your respawn time is longer. Wow. Well, okay. We saw concussive combustion attempt to be used there. We're going into base. That's where the game's at right now. We are actively fighting inside bottom barrel's base. That's just 3.35k heals for health rather for the Abrams here, though. Once again, this game is basically wrapped up. The first of our best of threes will go the way of Hydra Nation. Bottom barrel really only able to offer some resistance in one lane in one phase of the game. That was early on.
Yeah, definitely. It felt lackluster otherwise. But there we go. Hydra Nation picking up the first map in this best of 3.
All right, let's do it. Let's bring ZP back in here, get some thoughts. I mean, I have to say, ZP seems like the Abrams pick worked out beautifully. Just dominating the lane against Alju, winning out against that Yamato, and then basically being relevant, extremely relevant for the whole of the rest of the 20 minutes. Are you muted? In Discord?
Muted.
Hang on, we're here. Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. I thought I was muted, or rather, it doesn't matter. I'm unmuted now. Here's what really matters, though. When you look at how that went down, it wasn't on camera. But for Alju in the beginning, Alju was beating Flick. and was very close to getting the kill if you look at the health bars on the VOD. But then just overdove a little bit in pursuit of that kill and died the flick. And then from there on out, Abrams, when Abrams gets ahead early in the lane, ends up being a bit of a bully, and that's putting it mildly. So Alju could not get ahead. You didn't have a storyline of a Yamato that's fed and now can roam and be a terror. Instead, it was Flick that got to roam and be a terror. And it all basically came down to this one very tiny play in the very beginning that set it up. And then, of course, we had fall through here, where, great fake punch into the fall through. It didn't get better for Alju. The bullying simply continued from there on out.
Oh man. But then the bullying happened outside of that one lane. Flick took that bullying show on the road. That's the scariest part here. Hydra Nation, right? Like, Leffel was also, I mean, we've got to talk about this. The fact that on multiple occasions, Bottom Barrel commit 3 players to try and chase Leffel or to try and punish an overextension, that he simply TP. This was an amazing double jump. I can't believe this. Leffel simply TPs out untouched. And then we see Hydra Nation take like a free Guardian or Walker because Bottom Barrel just sent half of their team on a wild goose chase and got nothing.
Yeah, that's a great point, because it could have been challenging for the earn. It could have been a lot of other things, but it ended up being the one option with no value, which is like, it just is devastating at that point in the game. I think that's a great point to pick up on for sure.
Yeah,
Coming
and
back
we
from
go.
that, of course. Like, I mean, you can see his last moments. Look at the goal. Look at the souls difference. I mean, okay. I mean, yeah. I mean, it's kind of fun when you're like this. Your pocket is able to farm like the enemy base for like free damage amp stacks, and then your Abrams can jump on in there. 11, 0, and 8 for Flick over the course of the game. Hydration just quietly farming like an absolute monster. Again, we like this shift pocket combo, pretty darn scary. And I want to point out that like there was a lane that was struggling. It was the DMB hydration lane early, right? Like early on, Fishcake and Young Calc putting pressure on, ahead by like 1.2 to 2k souls. That is really quite significant, but they really couldn't pivot off of that because the rest of their lanes were losing, and they were losing so hard, ZP.
Yeah, and I think the bigger point here too, when you take a look how the game progressed, usually as a Lash, you find more opportunities than what Fishcake did. I mean, look, 5k damage as Lash means that your rotations as a team were not going well. You are not getting a lot of the pressure that we see from other players on Lash that really can take over a game. Also, Infernus never even got the chance to essentially burn. I mean, 6k damage on Infernus, that means things went rough. You never got online items-wise, and you never got good pressure. And you take a look at the heroes that did get something done despite everything happening. We saw JC Stanny have some moments. We saw Young Calc have some good moments, even while under immense pressure. But there's definitely a failure here in rotations where you don't get any value off the Lash, and Furnace doesn't get a chance to participate, and it's just a little bit tough the way that went down, I feel like. And that's probably why things started to just snowball out of control.
The macro play, guys, it just wasn't there for me for Bottom Barrel. I feel like Hydra Nation broke their ankles like 3 or 4 times in that early to mid game and were able to run away with it. We are going to go to a quick break. We're going to come back, our second map of this best of 3 with $1,000 on the line, thanks to alphazero.gg. We'll be coming back, so don't go anywhere. Can Hydra Nation close it out? We're feeling like it's pretty likely, but there's only one way to discover this. It's together right here after the break. All right, folks, it's time. Bottom Barrel have some music to be facing. Hydra Nation are threatening to take the series away in a 2-0 sweep and claim themselves the victory here in a Deadlock Fight Night for North America for a second consecutive week. And so far, I'm waiting to see how they're going to be stopped, because that was, ZP, a pretty darn one-sided game. Another 20-minute blast fest for Hydra Nation as they disintegrated Bottom Barrel.
Well, yeah, I mean, think about the history of Hydra Nation. This is a team that literally devoured their original competition last week and added them to their team when you look at DMB and Quig being added to their roster. So look, they're trying to be the super team of NA, and right now they are succeeding in that. But now my question is, do they have the courage to not ban Bebop? Real question.
Ban Bebop.
It's a good question.
Let's do it.
I hope they do it. I hope they do it for the show, for the love of the show.
Oh, you want to see them not ban Bebop for the love of the show?
Yes. Keep
Okay,
keep Bebop in there.
Yeah,
See
let
if you-
your
see if you
opponent
can-
fight at full strength.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Let them fight full strength. I mean, really, if you're better, you should be able to beat them. Bebop. So,
No, Bebop ban straight away. I just do deal with it. It just adds a level of volatility to the game that they probably don't want to contend with, and also does force some itemization that feels less than efficient for them, right? ZP was talking about it a ton, like being lashed and having to buy knockdown, but like feels pretty bad because you're not really advancing your game plan. You're being put in a position where you have to like slow your opponent down, which, as far as game theory is concerned, is not really where you want to find yourself. So McGinnis, Bebop bans, DDK, those are laid out for us here, same as that last game.
yeah, I love the ZP's explanation behind the beginner's ban, because I wasn't quite sure exactly why they did that, but it seemed to make a lot of sense to secure something for Quig. There was a Kelvin previously, which was picked off of that. So this time we're going to get the Shiv instantly picked. For Hydra Nation, it feels like they have a very good sense as to how to construct comps in these drafts and make them work and make sense through every portion of the game. So now that Shiv has been picked, I mean, that's the first pick, a Shiv first pick. I mean, I know Hydration's all about the Shiv, but
He loves to just pick it and then farm and attack statues and break boxes and farm and shoot camps. The guy like had a ridiculous soul total in the last game, it's like 36k or something like that. So yeah, I think if we saw a fair fight, we would have seen exactly what the Shiv is capable of. Kelvin, they're locked away this time by Bottom Barrel ZP. Pocket follow-up for the Bottom Barrelers.
Yeah, I mean, two things here. A, taking away the Kelvin, again, targeted at Quig, where now Quig has no McGinnis, no Kelvin. That is where that logic is coming from. And then Alju now gets to play the pocket, which I think is more of a comfort pick overall. And again, the Yamato could have gone very, very differently if just like one play had been slightly different damage-wise, but this is Bottom Barrel getting to play a little bit more what they're comfortable on, but also taking away some comfort from Hydra Nation at the same time. I wonder if it's going to be Viscous here, because we kind of saw the reverse in the last draft where Viscous came out once Kelvin and McGinnis were off the board. Hydra Nation, I'm looking at yeah, okay, there you go.
Okay. I mean, I'm liking this a lot. Paradox here to that hard engage might necessitate the lash pickup here for Bottom Barrel, lest they risk losing that one. Last game we saw Lefa, of course, on the Wraith. Didn't We're back. Thanks for sticking with us there. All right. Still here, folks. Still in the draft. Bear with us.
There we
just a
go.
moment. So you're waiting on that third pick here for Bottom Barrel. Abrams going to get locked in.
yeah, it definitely makes a lot of sense based on how badly they got bullied by Abrams. So always a good pick. I think right now Abrams has a lot of value. I'm surprised though we did not get the Lash. Lash is still on the board. It still feels like a pretty strong pick for both teams at this point in time. But the Infernus comes in. Presumably that's going to go on DMB. He's like the resident Infernus specialist.
I think the reason why the Lash didn't go off the board is that I think for Hydra Nation, the main person they want to play Shiv is Hydration. But also, if they pick Lash, they also like having Hydration play the Lash. Yeah. So maybe the idea is that you could let the Lash go for later, is that if they've picked Shiv that early, they've already tipped their hand as to what Hydration is going to play, which is a Shiv, which means you can just prioritize the Lash a little bit later. That has to be what happened here, because normally Lash would go earlier in the draft.
Yeah. Okay. So both teams at least get themselves like a hard engage tool. Abrams, of course, wants to pile in. And Dynamo pick up here for Hydra Nation. That is a ton of fun. And again, we haven't really seen him look his best outside of that Bebop Dynamo lane that Bottom Barrel showed us, where they just basically ran away with it. Really annoying in lane. Kinetic Blast, very good for the knockup. Follows up on other like sort of, you know, little CC abilities in lane. Plus Rejuvenating Aurora. Nice for a little bit of sustain. Also just walking around with that in the middle of a team fight late game, throwing your abilities out can be pretty good healing. So Dynamo brings a lot of utility to the table and a decent gun as well that with the right build can sort of be a bit of a nuisance. Lady Geisco got an even better 6-shooter.
Yeah, I was wondering what they would go with. Obviously, the Wraith picks are coming in really late with North America, which is so funny, the contrast there to compared with Europe. But yeah, Lady Geist coming in, and you've got the Wraith picked by Bottom Barrel and the Warden as well. So this is an interesting draft, I've got to say. I am personally liking Bottom Barrel a little bit more, but it's you know, obviously Hydra Nation not without a significant amount of utility, and it's going to be really interesting to see them with Dynamo because typically they're very good, or at least in the past, in the previous iteration of the roster, were very good at actually finding money ults because it's not easy to do, and you do have to have someone that can play Dynamo well, have good awareness, situational awareness, and then if you have a Blink Dagger, you can use the Quantum Entanglement plus the Blink Dagger to go into the fight, get like scope it out whilst you're in the Quantum Entanglement, come back out, blink in to like land that perfect ult, and all that stuff is very hard to do. So I'm curious how well this pick will go for Hydra Nation.
Thanks, guys. We're aware of the Discord noises popping up on your stream. We'll get those rectified for you as quickly as possible. Here are your compositions, folks. Hydra Nation, of course, with the Shiv Paradox, Viscous Infernus, Dynamo, rounded out with the Lady Geist. And on Bottom Barrel side of things, we have Warden, Wraith, Lash, Abrams, Pocket, and Kelvin. I like the team fight potential for Hydra Nation. Of course, they can set these engagements up with the Paradox. And this is Bottom Barrel trying to take at least a map in this series and force it to 3. We're going to play heading up to the bathroom right now. So that's why we're still waiting to jump into the game. Haven't quite got there, but bear with us.
We got a first coming in here, one way or the other. Either we're going to go to 3, and that'll mean that Bottom Barrel takes a map off Hydra Nation, and we have ourselves a series, or we're going to see Wraith lose. One of those two things has to happen. And either way, I feel like it's almost more damning commentary with the team gap we saw in the last game if Bottom Barrel comes back and wins, because then it just really sets the stage for, wow, that Wraith character pretty good right now at the tournament level, where, I mean, people know Wraith is good in general, right? But you think about the storyline that was developing in EU, kind of calmed down a little bit as we went to NA, but it would be funny if Bottom Barrel, off the back of Wraith, could come in and even the series up. But a lot of options for the Bottom Barrel squad when you take a look at their overall team comp. I think probably a redemption arc for Fishcake relative to what they had in the last match. It can be very explosive, I think, the lineup they're running with.
Bro, you homies in chat think it's me getting these Discord notifications? Bro, I ain't that popular. That ain't me. That's ZP. Those Discord notifications are coming from the secret Deadlock cabal. Yeah, they're all discussing these compositions, bro. That's where his analysis is coming from, bro. He's gathered the greatest minds in North American Deadlock, and they're just feeding him info and make him look like a genius. Honestly, like I respect the hustle, really. I just don't have a problem with it. That's fine. That ain't me. Come on, bro. Sheesh.
I have never been thrown under the bus this hard before. I mean, DDK just escapes it entirely.
Yeah, I'm just.
Oh no, I got him early in the night. I got him good early in the night. Don't worry about it. And I also got him when he asked for feedback on his casting. If you've seen.
Oh yeah. I did see that tweet. That was good.
It goes around. It goes around. So we're look, it was one of our streamers, observers. I didn't have streamer mode on. That's why. So we're gonna have that sorted. Sorry about that. Thanks for being patient. It's not me. It will go away. Chat. It will go away. We're working on it. We're very aware. The chat is not moving so fast that we can't see your feedback. But if it was moving really fast, it also wouldn't be a huge issue with me.
Just saying. If it was moving really fast, it'd probably because people got some Alpha Zero, which you can get for free if you just go to the website, sign up, and get some free samples. Then, like, look, you're just going to be moving faster. You're going to be thinking faster. And look, it's for free. What more do you need?
Shout out to the homie who says the Discord noties are unprofessional. What is wrong with you? This is the Deadlock Fight Night. We're a bunch of volunteers getting together to make some great Deadlock games happen. Professional? Are you being paid, ZP?
I'm paying myself a satisfaction right now. That's what I'm paying.
Unreal. Yo, find me this. Okay, where you at? How do I? Yeah, you can sit down for 5 minutes. You can just chill, guys. You guys need to
esports exposure. That's what I got promised.
That's it. So waiting to jump
Yeah.
into the game here. I'm waiting on a confirmation to see if we can throw to a quick break while we wait for that. But yeah, I will tolerate no slander of our hardworking production and observer team who are doing it for nothing but the love of the game. All right, you guys need to
We can.
chill.
We
We're gonna go to a break.
as well. Oh, you're gonna.
When we
okay,
come
alright.
back, we're talking about the draft.
You're the host,
Really?
not me.
You wanna do that? I'm the host. I'm in charge. I'm the captain.
You've got
now.
the power, man. You can do whatever you want.
He's gone man with power in just 2 minutes. As soon as we
Break.
go off script.
And then we're coming back. See you after this. For map 2, of course, of Hydra Nation versus Bottom Barrel. And I'm going to swing the green sword in chat in the meantime. See you in a second. Wait, we have a game. Let's go. Oh, yes. We sort of have a game. Okay. I will fight you in the streets, chat. Those streets are real. Here we go. Hydra Nation on the amber side. Bottom Barrel on the sapphire side. We are going to catch up, of course, with the beloved ZP on the other side of this game. And again, the stakes are $1,000 on the line and my sanity slowly being drained from me with every message in the chat. Let's go, folks. Can Bottom Barrel stay alive in this set? We're about to find out.
We are indeed. We are indeed. So Abram's actually going to be in one of the mid lanes this time. Definitely a popular solo lane pick, but it's going to be Lash and Furnace. Lash belonging to Bottom Barrel, and then we've got a Wraith for Bottom Barrel as well on the other solo lane up against the Shiv. So these mid lanes is where it's at right now, Mitch.
Bro, who said you're trying to have a weave on? Bro, if I had a toupee, I wouldn't have my hairline this high. You guys are out of pocket. That is ridiculous. JC starting under a little bit of pressure here, though, in the lane, of course. Abrams, if he gets ahead early, can be a problem. I can't believe you people. He can be a problem. And, of course, this is the Paradox and Dynamo lane here. So, of course, that healing will be on tap once that number 3 ability is invested in.
Oh, my goodness. That was rather close. Oh, my God.
Still going to get taken down. It's Young Calc falling first. Flick with the first spot of the last game coming out on that Abrams in the solo lane. This time on the Paradox looking just as good.
Yeah, at least if you die like this early, as long as you can sort of make sure that it's not a habit, it is something that is very recoverable, and you get back onto lane super fast. So oftentimes you might even not lose farm from the wave, depending on where the wave was at. But so far so good for Hydra Nation, that's for sure. They get a pick onto JC Stani again with this Paradox.
This is so punishing. I mean, this could be yet another one. Huge kinetic blast coming out. How do you walk away from this? Parry attempt there for Young Calc, but I'm sorry, but Flick wasn't interested in throwing fists. It was all about the blammo.
Well, I did say as long as they don't make a habit of it. I hope that's not habit forming right there. That's not the best start for this lane. And that's also quite scary because Paradox is going to be obviously, as soon as the Paradox core swap comes online, which will be sooner now than later, now you've got a Paradox that can really instill fear across every single lane before anyone else has ults ready to stop it. So that's going to be pretty difficult, and already more damage coming through. This is beautiful, Mitch.
So oppressive here, Dan. I mean, that kinetic carbine just being used off cooldown here. They want to fight this. Okay, Soul Siphon being used. Oh, okay, that's a bit cheeky, Flick. All right. Yeah, the heavy melee sort of clips through the wall there. Flick knows the tech is, and Abrams has to walk away from that one. So JC Stani struggling here, languishing at 1k souls.
Wow, beautiful, really beautiful play from Flick so far. Yeah, 2.2k against 1.1k for JC Stani. This is not a good look. And also Fish Cake going down early here to Leffer on the Infernus. Leffer, a bit of a demon on the Infernus. Good to see him back on it again. And
yeah,
we're just trolling each other right now.
Quick just roam to that like far left lane. Just sets up, I think, just with a one ability and gets it done. Good shoulder charge connection here. This is pretty scary for Flick. Has to try and walk away. Rocket elsewhere goes down. So Alju on that pocket, finding a matchup that he's been looking for most of this series. And the carbine doesn't really slow this Abrams down too much. And JC Stani is on the hunt, but he won't be pursuing Flick all the way.
Oh, just able to get out of there. There's the assist. And you're right, Quick taking that moment where, there's a kill on the lane. They're not on the lane to see whether you're going missing or not. So you have a small opportunity to go and get a timing for a gank if the player trying to gank is like deep enough on their lane. So yeah, playing with these tiny little timings to get these edges. And the 3k lead this early on is certainly a problem for Bottom Barrel. But we'll see if they can mount a recovery. It's still pretty early. No Guardians down just yet. Ooh, Leffer's in some trouble. But looks like no one will die just yet.
Yeah, look, one of the flame dash there just to get an afterburn proc on Fish Cake. That is going to be a problem. Look at them burning down here. Okay, Left actually goes and tries to take the fight again. That afterburn won't be ticking for nearly long enough to bring Fish Cake down. So that's a win actually for Lash in that solo lane. We might need to see someone like Quig roam over to that side of the map and set up another kill for Leper. But the farm has been good, still ahead of Fish Cake there. And with where the lane is, Infernus will be able to return to the lane and not lose any minions.
Ooh, we've got the Paradoxical swap online here. Kinetic Carbine charged up as well, so looking to go for a pick here on lane 3. And looks like they're going to get the conversion of the Guardian as well as Kelvin goes down. So really nice. I don't know that Paradoxical swap was even utilized, so it might still be ready for another gank. And in fact, they're going to chase Bottom Barrel, who are ganking into the first lane.
Lefer was able to get out as Wraith earlier on, but okay, just walk out with a flame dash, fine. Bottom Barrel with, again, 3 players in a side lane. I can't do too much about it. There's going to be some pressure definitely coming across from mid-left here as Hydra Nation actually sending Quig over again. So we're going to have the Dynamo here. The Bottom Barrel are hanging around. Maybe hoping to bait something in, but they are spending a lot of time off the map for this.
Yeah, they are. There's definitely, they have player numbers advantage, but we'll see if Hydra Nation are interested in giving them a fight. It looks like Lefer's kind of in a bit of a sketchy position. It's all on the lonesome. And, you know, they can dive Lefer right now. They, you know, if they really want to. They got Lash, they got Abrams, they got Warden as well. So they can dive. Once these creeps get up the stairs, you're definitely in danger territory. There will be assistance coming in, though, from Quig and Flick.
Yeah, there it is. Telekinesis getting thrown up. Nice kinetic blast, though. Beautifully set up by Quig. I mean, this Dynamo play's been spectacular early on. Fishcake going down there. Young Kalka, of course, not far behind. He was being chased down. And Bottom Barrel spent so long. They pulled everyone out of the mid-right side lane because they'd already lost the Guardian, right? You can see Hydration's not pushing that hard, was just looking to farm it. So they thought they had a window to try and like go 3v2. And they lose out in a straight 3v3 after the rotation comes in from Flick. That is brutal.
Yeah. 5k soul advantage, 1 Guardian advantage as well for Hydra Nation. Having a great start here. This early face of Remy phase looking really nice. Looks like Hydration will be able to escape. And yeah, interesting that thing that we did not note just yet. Hydration actually on the Viscous and not the ship.
Oh. That's right. Yeah, a bit of a mix up for him. In the meantime, it's another walk up here in this far left lane. Left for getting plenty of backup from the boys as Quig is rotated over there very, very frequently to come in with that one ability. Easy knock up, easy kill. There's a lot of people from Bottom Barrel here. They want to try and maybe just try and force this Guardian, but this is pretty telegraphed, Dan. Abrams over the top, little cube here. So Hydration does not have to be subject to the punch, but actually gets knocked out of the immobilizing word. Okay, doesn't matter. Ends up being a trade, though. Geo does come down, and Quig is coming through from the backside. Quig, who does have that singularity available.
Yeah, at the same time, Rocker on the Shiv is taking the Guardian on the right side of the map as this fight is transpiring here. And it does have Hydra Nation on the back foot, so they do really need additional value from that. And they're trying to hold on here, and it's looking like they're not going to be able to. There's just too many numbers. 4 players still on this lane for Bottom Barrel. And finally, they're going to turn their attention to the Shiv, who took down the Guardian, is in a ripe spot to be ganked, and is currently inside the frozen shelter. I don't know how on earth the Shiv's going to get out of this.
Yeah, again, just a matter of time, I think, until the net closes here on Rocker. Can he juke this somehow? There is a TP, of course.
But there are 3 players here. If you can long enough, like, there's no players like to defend elsewhere on the map here.
That's right. That mid-left side walk is under a lot of pressure now. So Rocket does go down, but what's the cost here for Bottom Barrel? They will be suffering a fair bit of walker pressure here with 4 players grouped up by Hydra Nation. Hydration is still farming, as best as I can tell. Maybe looking to take a TP across the map and apply pressure elsewhere. But there it is. Flex slot now available. And that's all Guardians down on the side of Bottom Barrel.
That was so interesting because Shiv just surviving for a very long time created an opportunity for them to just push a lane and get massive value. So really nice from Hydra Nation. They're expanding their lead even more, close to a 10k difference. Again, quite early on. We haven't even had the first earn up just yet. And they're currently now just on this warpath to clean up all of the Guardians. And it's going pretty damn well right now. They've got all 4 Guardians.
That's the first one picked up by Bottom Barrel there. They do at least get themselves a few souls. The 3 players grouped up here for Hydra Nation on the far left. That's obviously a walker that will be contested. Hydration is pretty well farmed up here. 8k souls for him. And as Rock is sitting towards the back of the map here, just picking up some of those neutral camps himself. Hydration opts to sort of take his foot off the gas here as well, as there's a good push on that far left, but Hydra Nation don't want to take the walker yet.
Indeed. And in 40 seconds, Urn comes up. I'm not sure if there's any easy tower or guardian to be taken right now for Bottom Barrel. Obviously, some farm up in the jungle to be getting as well. But at this point, again, like beginning to think about positioning for the Urn, you have to obviously figure out where it's going to spawn first, which we'll find out in 20 seconds. So a lot of players around the bridge buff.
A lot happening at the extremities here. Mid left side lane, that's JC Stunner getting picked off. Okay, Singularity was there for a moment, but looks like Death Slam actually might have interrupted that. In comes Leopard though, pretty farmed up. Toxic Bullets already available, so definitely a threat at this stage of the game. Combustion comes out, catching on to that lash. And Fishcake is not going to walk away alive. I mean, he'll walk away and then die, so same thing really. Basically, Leopard gets to be the cool guy that looks away from explosions as his enemies bleed out or burn to death, or both, as it tends to be the case. Bottom Barrel get pretty stomped here, and now there's a question of an early mid-boss take at 10 minutes.
Yeah, and they could even also run the Urn because they spawn next, and then they're going to choose to have all hands on deck for this mid-boss. Definitely a sensible decision, and they're going to be able to get a walker off of this. You know, like, surely they will convert more value off of this. We'll have to see how they decide to play it. Again, they have a pretty good macro sense, but we might have to hold that thought here. Are we going to get like a potential steal from Abrams?
They're going for it. In comes Abrams. Ah, well, he never got off the roof, apparently. All seismic, no slam, I guess. And JC Stunning only at 6k souls here, so it's rough out there for the boy. 57 place, 44k overall. So mid boss was the priority there. Now this is something you turn into lane pressure, and you want to take map control, get an Urn capture in behind that map control, and get to work on these walkers.
Yeah, it's such a strong position for Hydra Nation because they can split push, they can run the Urn, they can create a scenario where Bottom Barrel have to make a hard call. Where do we place our players? Like, what is most important? Do we defend one of these Guardians? Do we try to stop the Urn take and try to avoid the like full team fight at the Urn take? Like, where do we get the value in this current exchange?
See here that left has already really tried to give that left side a good shove. It's a great way of preparing for, like, an Urn landing. Get the one going. He's taking the neutral camps right now, so he'll be able to respond and fight pretty quickly. Bottom Barrel want to trade this actually for this Guardian. They need that flex slot so badly at this stage. The Urn going to be traded in. And here comes Bottom Barrel. Yeah, really setting up around that Guardian. Something that Hydra Nation will be happy to trade because they can get themselves a walker for this.
Yeah, this is an interesting one. We'll have to go back to it in a second because, yeah, Walker goes the way of Hydra Nation, and they're in a position where they can certainly find a way out of this. Not super gankable. There are lots of players still trying to push for Bottom Barrel on the third lane to try to get a Walker in return, but they aren't really able to do that. And right now, Hydra Nation has so many players that are challenging another Walker here, Mitch.
Oh, Hydra Nation is so fed. That one splatter did a disgusting amount of damage on two Bottom Barrel players. Even just the raw poke here from Hydra Nation is devastating. This is the second Walker getting picked up here, and of course with the rejuve and the buff that empowers your minions to push up the map, you are very, very hard to stop. We're looking at base Guardians now? Okay.
Yeah, so I feel like Bottom Barrel, we're in this position where you can't give up something for free. So if you're going to decide to give up the Urn, you have to make a lane push actually work, and that has to be a reasonable thing that can work. But they kind of lost the kind of, I guess, the willingness to do it. They got kind of deep, and then they just ended up walking away from giving an Urn away and not getting Guardian in exchange. And then they were out of position to defend against the Walker push. And so Hydra Nation was just like, well, we'll just keep pushing. So the macro reaction is a bit too slow here from Bottom Barrel, and it is costing them a massive soul disadvantage now.
From this one, got to be brutal. Your walkers have all been stripped away. You are behind in some cases by 9k souls. Left is at 17k right here. Whereas someone like Geo, okay, well, maybe not use the support as example, but someone like Walex is at 9.
Keep your wits about you.
Yeah, everyone's like ahead like a full tier 3 item.
I mean, that is an insane amount. Yeah, I mean, honestly, so much of these players are up by, like, 6k. That's T4, man. That's
T4, yeah, right, exactly.
yeah. That's. Oh my goodness, JC starting midway through the lead, gets hit with the kinetic carbine, stopped in time, and then swapped to his doom. Yeah, we're starting to tickle the base bosses now. 14 minutes into the game. And there's really nothing Bottom Barrel could do to win a fight like this. They don't have a shotgun or team fight winner. Maybe Walex can get in there with a telekinesis, but at this point, he doesn't even have enough souls to get the levels in the ultimate that would allow it to be an AoE ability. It's a single target one. Still, Carbine here would almost certainly set up a pick instantly. His base bosses are starting to come down. Hydra Nation have no reason to go back, to fall back on this. Even without Rejude, they're just too far ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know that Flick has died this game.
Oh, you might be right, actually.
Paradoxical swap and stuff. He's on like 10 kills free at the moment. So insane performance from Flick. He might be my MVP for this particular game if I'm having to pick somebody, but they obviously all have played well. And you're right, Mish. It is just, they're just converting this fully into what looks like it's going to be the win.
Yeah, no reason to leave here. You're too far ahead. I mean, you're playing in a place where Bottom Barrel can't even farm. Good style on them, I guess, and drag the game out. But yeah, Hydra Nation looking at that $1,000 thinking, yeah, we're going to take that 2 weeks in a row. That's our tendies for the week. Thank you very much. They're an out singularity here. Utterly unnecessary, but that's the fun of it now, is Patron will eventually get killed, guys.
Yeah,
Patron.
yeah, I was going to say.
Left for, by the way, someone notorious for not wanting to end the game and run around the map and kill statues and blow boxes up to get max stats. That much I've learned from spending time on his stream.
Yeah, I can see that. Well, I mean, this was an excellent game from start to finish. I do think that Bottom Barrel, it's always going to be this way when you're playing anything at a competitive level. There are going to be decisions that you have to make, which are very hard to make, but you just have to be able to make the right ones and know when to just instantly react with those decisions. And right now, Hydra Nation put Bottom Barrel in too many, they put them over a barrel in this game. I guess someone had to do it. Someone had to say that at some point. And
don't worry, Chad is making clips about the name as well. I do love the person in chat sort of drawing my attention to the white viscous mod. Definitely gonna have to get that one on there. I'm sure I heard it makes you play much better. Thanks for the heads up. Okay, in the base we go. Warp zone out. We're starting on them now, guys. It's okay to end the game. That's totally acceptable.
Yep.
Hydra Nation will ascend to become your Deadlock Fight Night champion in North America, a second week in a row, and I would suggest, CP, that barely a sweat was broken in the process.
Yeah, I mean, the second map here was very dominant. The first map had its ups and downs, but yeah, that was domination start to finish. Purely good macro play, incredibly good micro play from Hydra Nation. I mean, it was an outclassing across the board. But more than anything else, you talk about individual player performances. The two things that strike out to me, Flick continually finding opportunities, whether it be on the Abrams map 1 or the Paradox map 2. And of course, Leffa just completely denying any attempts to just go in on him with 3 people at the same time. Just says no, just immediately leaves. Every single time a 3-person bottom barrel gank comes across. Weird how that trend came 2 maps in a row. But yeah. Either way, I think Bottom Barrel was trying to get something going on rotations, but Hydra Nation saw it coming a mile away, and nothing really got started.
No, I think, Dan, pretty gutting. I think, look, Quick, so mobile, really crossing over from that mid-left to the far left on multiple occasions, just like this, right? Really setting up Leffer as well, giving him the edge, and then just making sure every time there was a chance to sort of leave that sort of mid-left lane, he was over there. Really good presence from Quig around the map. Flick also being so dominant in lane. It got to the point where, you know Paradox is really ahead when as soon as you hit a kinetic carbine, you're guaranteed to kill. This happens so often for JC Stani. Not enough souls on him to have the durability. He's like halfway through his ultimate and he gets blown up.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think both Flick and Quig and what they were able to do coming out of their lane between like the 5 to 10 minute mark was just exceptional. The level of pressure, it's hard to react to that when you're playing against it because you're being sort of ganked in multiple lanes. So it's like hard to respond as a team. And so if you're the one getting like pressured by that, you feel kind of disconnected and alone, and like you're not getting any help, and you're not actually able to get help because your team is losing on other fronts at the same time. So amazing pressure game from Flick and Quig.
Young Calc in the chat with the unethical Bebop ban call. Well, I mean, Zippy, you kind of called it. You said that, yeah, without access to Bebop, maybe this team has to sort of rely on something a little bit more conventional. And no one does conventional better than Hydra Nation in NA right now.
Yeah, I mean, look, you've seen this so often in esports or even competition in general of the idea of we're going to take that one thing you're really good at. We are going to remove that tool away from you, and you will have to beat us with something else. And in this case, you look to the draft and you look at how Bottom Barrel was able to get to this match. They got here off the back of Bebop, and Wallach's Bebop is incredible. Bottom Barrel plays around a Bebop really well. And even though it's not meta to ban Bebop first, Hydra Nation correctly identified, if we ban the Bebop, we get an easier match. And that's what they did, and that's basically what we saw.
10-0 and 15 for Flick. On that note, let's talk about a player of the match here for Hydra Nation. Hard not to give it to Flick. Incredible showing. Really just enjoyed the level of dominance that we saw in lane from Flick, being very ready to fight, being so dominant that he freed Quick up to go and then snowball another lane. That's a great way, I feel like, to make your presence felt across the map, freeing up teammates to go absolutely haywire and make things happen. So yeah, we saw Flick, of course, on Abraham's first, and Fifi pointed out, right, like maybe Flick is allowed into the game to some degree, but once they get that first kill, man, it is over.
So, just the fake punch is so beautiful because people, when they hear the charge sound cue, they instantly react and press the parry button. And so it's such a good like outplay tech, and to see it just used so flawlessly was really satisfying. So Flick definitely so deserving of this, especially, you know, showing proficiency on Abrams and then a very different play style in many senses. Also just being really dominant on Paradox. And I have to say, like, mechanics wise, Flick seems like a very mechanically good player, and was like hitting like every headshot on Paradox, hitting all the kinetic combines, just being super oppressive off of the mechanics outside of anything else too.
Yeah, and hitting the charges on Abrams, where right now it's an extra level of care than not go into a spot on the map that's just gonna redirect you like you're playing pinball with the terrain, right? So there's another level too to just control Abrams in his current state on top of everything else. Yeah, it's hard to find any faults with how Flick plays today.
Yeah, I mean, like this happened over and over again, by the way, this kill. I mean, like Flick just moved up every time it looked like someone was coming back to lane. Quick and Flick are there. We get instant catch, like the kinetic carbines just do not miss. There's another one there that just suspends Abrams in midair while he's trying to dive down. Very, very clean play. That's a 10-minute. That's like a 10-minute 12 mid-boss or something like that. Very, very straightforward. Very, very simple here. And here it is. We're at the end of yet another Deadlock Fight Night, folks. Thanks for joining us. We, of course, saw things in EU, and what we can say is that after both regions of play, our top teams have remained the same. That's right. We saw Buff Enjoyers stave off DMS as they were able to advance in the Challenger game over 3-6 Mafia. Then Hydra Nation maintained their title as Bottom Barrel prevailed over TF2 Boomers, but then fell quite short in that last game. So both Buff Enjoyers and Hydra Nation once again walk away with $1,000. A huge, of course, thanks for this to our sponsor. If you haven't already, head over to alpha0.gg and claim your free sample pack. I'm told there's still a few left, so support our sponsor who keeps the lights on over here at the Deadlock Fight Night, and that supports us directly. They're obviously making a fantastic focus-oriented nootropic. Well worth checking out. The free samples are free shipping if you're in North America, so take advantage of that. Let me know how it is. I'm curious to see if you guys enjoy it. Definitely the kind of thing I'm into. Dan loves that kind of stuff. He loves just like injecting it into his eyeballs, honestly. He's kind of out there though. That's just him. I would just drink it personally, but you know, Dan's a little bit crazy like that. We'll be back next week. Same team. You want to talk? You want to talk, Dan? You want to retort?
Sorry, mate. Sorry.
Go on.
I'm not used to you having all the power. It's just a weird dynamic shift, you know.
He's actually, his power has grown, or rather the ego of having the power has just grown tremendously in 20 minutes. I don't know if this is the power of just like seeing Hydra Nation be like, yes, I could have that level of power. I will have this power on broadcast, you know?
I like to keep it fresh with Dan, like a little bit of role reversal sometimes, you know what I mean? You got to keep it spicy. That's all I'm saying, all right? That's totally fine, guys. Guys, don't worry about it. We'll be back next week. We have our same two kings of the respective hills defending their titles in another Deadlock Fight Night. Thanks so much for joining us. Big shout out to Alpha0GG. Thanks to those of you in the chat, even the ones calling us unprofessional. I don't know about that one. We'll see you next time. It's been great to catch some more Deadlock action with you. Have a great week. We'll be back with more next Wednesday.
See the enemy.
Good. Always have it. Death comes. When this is over, I should ask about it. Stay where you are.